Dawn breaks over the vast churning Pacific as Admiral Spruance stands rigid on the Enterprise bridges. His polished brass binoculars catch the pale morning light, reflecting a horizon heavy with impending storm and silent anticipation for the coming clash ahead. Far to the west, the Japanese carrier Akagi cuts through the heavy swells. Deck officers move with controlled purpose across the weathered steel, their dark tunics silhouetted against the rising tide as Zero fighters idling nearby hum with steady, quiet menacing. Below the weathered steel, the radar room hums with electrical currents. Operators brace against heavy equipment racks, their weathered faces carved by stark shadows as glowing cathode ray tubes pulse constantly with a distant, vast, silent, approaching enemy formation. High above the flight deck, fighter control towers pierce the morning haze. Pilots grip their helmets while waiting squadrons taxi into formation, their polished aluminum wings catching the volumetric light that casts long cinematic shadows across the towering heavy steel. The engines roar as American Wildcats climb through the thin, high-altitude air. Pilots brace against G-force, their wool flight suits absorbing the chill, while golden hour light washes over the climbing trajectories and endless, vast, clear, distant enemy silhouettes. Opposing formations descend through scattered clouds toward the Japanese carriers. Dive bomber pilots scan the churning sea below, their sleek fuselages cutting through the clear sky as they prepare to unleash their devastating payload upon the entire vast, massive American fleet. Back on the Enterprise deck, torpedo bombers line the runway for launch. Crew members route heavy fuel hoses across the grating, their broad frames moving with guarded precision as the waiting aircraft prepare to meet the massive, swift, relentless incoming threat. Meanwhile, aboard the Kaga, Japanese deck officers maintain their guarded positions. Ammunition crates are secured while Zero fighters idle on the weathered deck, their olive-drab paint schemes absorbing the warm afternoon light before the critical, tense final launch sequence begins. The dauntless pilots gather in the control tower, scanning the runway for their cue. Heavy leather jackets absorb the cool air as engine vibrations tremble through the steel structure, signaling the imminent departure of the powerful, massive, decisive strike force. Clear skies stretch endlessly above the Akagi flight deck. Officers shift their weight against the morning wind, their dark uniforms contrasting sharply with the bright horizon as they monitor the constant, distant approaching American aircraft from their elevated vantage points. Devastator torpedo bombers struggle upward through the thin atmosphere. Pilots grip their control sticks tightly, their weathered fuselages casting long shadows across the cloud deck as they climb toward the intercept vectors that will determine the final ultimate battle's fate. Japanese Zero pilots descend through the scattered clouds near the Kagauds. Their sleek wings catch the fading light as they break formation, preparing to engage the American fighters that now threaten the strategic entire massive vulnerable carrier group from above. Spruance lowers his binoculars to survey the damaged Yorktown. His finger traces the horizon line, tracking the struggling carrier as volumetric light pierces the morning haze, illuminating the heavy toll exacted by the fierce, bloody. On the Hiryu deck, the final launch sequence commences. Officers secure fuel lines while Zero fighters roll toward the catapult rails, their polished metal surfaces gleaming under the golden hour sun as they prepare for a final swift, desperate counterattack. American deck officers navigate the battle-worn Yorktown flight deck. They brace against the island's superstructure while waiting aircraft taxi into position, their presence a testament to the relentless repair efforts that keep the damaged carrier in the desperate ongoing fight. Japanese dive bombers sweep downward toward the American carriers. Pilots grip their control sticks as their wings catch the last rays of sunlight, casting long cinematic shadows across the sea before they release their ordnance into the violent churning waves. Damage control teams rush across the scarred Yorktown deck. Officers scan the horizon for approaching destroyers, their heavy canvas coveralls, absorbing the cool air as they prepare to reinforce the battered hull against the critical, devastating, massive next incoming strike. Destroyer crews brace against the churning Pacific swells. Their dark knit sweaters and steel rails are silhouetted against the morning haze as they navigate the treacherous waters, ready to intercept enemy submarines or provide immediate, vital, essential, critical anti-aircraft support. Aboard the Yamamoto flagship, Japanese admirals watch the tide turn. Their polished brass instruments reflect the sinking fleet below, casting deep cinematic shadows across their weathered faces as the final grim, heavy reality of defeat settles over the command bridge. Victory finally settles over the vast Enterprise, Bridget. American admirals stand amid the quiet aftermath. Their rigid postures soften as the churning ocean swells carry the weight of the battle-historic final decisive American triumph across the vast Pacific theater.